Hello, scumbags, and welcome to I Rebel. I am Andrew Fantasia, and I am joined by a very special guest,
Dave Filoni.
Hi, Dave Filoni. It's a terrible Dave Filoni.
Hi.
I love your work.
Thanks. You know, when we set out to make Rebels, we set out to do something that took place before A New Hope.
And you succeeded.
Thank you. Thank you. We work really hard on the show.
Can I ask you a question about canon?
Yeah.
Are waffles canon?
Wow. You asked me if waffles are canon, but what if they aren't waffles that you know of waffles?
You just wrinkled my brain, Dave. Actually, speaking of weird things being canon, I failed to mention in our very first episode of I Rebel, you know what is canon now?
What?
The word cool. Ezra says
That's right.
cool
That's
in
right.
the pilot episode of
He
the
does.
show. So apparently wizard is no longer a slang term in the galaxy. Now everybody just says
No,
cool.
they could both coexist.
They can both coexist.
I think wizard is more for a younger age.
I want to hear Leia drop the word wizard in episode 8.
Yo, wizard cool.
Like Poe is like, he shows her a hologram and she's like, wow, that ship is so wizard, Poe.
I've never worn this hat before.
It looks good on you though.
It's from Nashville.
It better be from Nashville.
It's from Nashville,
I wouldn't wear a
Tennessee.
cowboy hat that wasn't from Nashville, to be honest, unless it was from Texas or something.
Yeah, well,
That's- like if you gave me a cowboy hat and you said this was made in like, I don't know, France, I'd be like, you know what? Nothing against you, France, but I'm not wearing this cowboy hat.
I have
It's not
another one
legit.
from Calgary, Alberta. I have another one. It's a straw one. It's a straw one. It's not
Yeah,
nice.
that's Calgary is pretty much the Dallas of Canada, so I guess it's acceptable. But anyway, that's enough cowboy hat talk. Let's get started with I Rebel. We're going through
Woo.
Rebels. All
This
summer long.
is a big three.
These 3 episodes are intense. It is like bonkers how much happens here. We're starting off with episode 10, which is called Path of the Jedi. And the Jedi are knights of peace and justice from the Old Republic. There's
Before the dark times.
before the Dark Times. So in Path of the Jedi, it's a very simple episode. It all takes place on Lothal, and Kanan takes Ezra to this ancient Jedi temple that's kind of buried underneath the grass in Lothal. And basically the whole episode is just him and Kanan and Ezra in this temple meditating and learning about the Force. And the first thing I noticed when this came up was this temple. Maybe it's just wishful thinking on my part, but this temple looks an awful lot like some structures that we have seen on Ahch-To.
Yeah,
It's got
it
that
definitely does.
beehive-ish shape with like the little thing. It's
That has to be a coincidence.
yeah. I agree,
Has to
because
be
It's a little bit too early to.
Yeah, too early and this is too early on in Ahch-To, because what's on Ahch-To was that's based off of what's actually on the island that they actually shot on, I believe.
I think you're right. Yeah, they wouldn't have messed
Yeah,
around
like
with the
that
island.
almost seems a little too coincident, but like in a really serendipitous way. Like that is
Yeah.
great. And if it wasn't, bravo, people, bravo.
Yeah, you guys. If that was a case of just folks in the art department, like Doug Chang, like walking up to Dave and saying, "Hey, this is what I have in mind for this planet," and then like as in the most alpha stages of it, then good on them for taking advantage of that, because that's fantastic. So they go into this temple, and Kanan waits in the lobby, for lack of a better term, and there's all these skeletons in the lobby of like dead masters who their Padawans never came back, which is horrifying. And Kanan's just like, I'm gonna sit here and meditate, and Ezra, you go in this temple and find yourself. And he does, and what ends up happening is both of them get some guidance from a certain disembodied voice that speaks in a certain frog-like backwards way. Mr. Yoda makes his first appearance on Rebel, and I think to date only appearance. I could be wrong. It's been a while, but I think this is first and only appearance on the Rebels show. So, what was it like for you hearing Yoda?
This isn't his only appearance, I don't believe. But anyway, what it was like was at first you're like, cool, and it sounds just like Yoda. Doesn't sound like someone trying to be Yoda. It sounds like the Yoda that I know and love. But then I'm also thinking, and this is a personal thing, but I still am not sure how much Obi-Wan, Yoda, I want in these side stories. Like, and I mean, when I say side story, I mean Rebels as a whole is a side story to the saga.
Right.
Rogue One is a side story to the saga. Like, that's what I mean. Like, the standalones of these TV shows. How much do I want of Yoda and Obi-Wan? Because the more we know about them, the less mysterious they are. And that's what really, like when you watch the original trilogy without the prequels, Yoda comes, like, you don't even know Yoda's just a crazy frog thing at first, right? And then you find out, oh, but when you watch the prequels first, you lose that element of it, or you think maybe he lost his mind while he's been on, like, but something's still a little bit lost. He's not as mysterious. And I love the prequels. I'm not bashing them in any way. It's just that's what happens when you get backstory, when you get more backstory. And then also things start to get a little bit more confusing. Like, Yoda knew that there were other Jedi around. Like, that's when things start to fall.
Yeah, that's the biggest, that's my biggest concern too, is just that, especially with Yoda. I mean, there's a lot of famous character cameos in this first season. Like, they pack in a bunch. But with Yoda particularly, that's probably my least favorite for the very reason you brought up, is because, okay, Yoda had these two powerful Force users communicate with him. And he never thought to bring that up at any point, on Dagobah. Like, Luke, just so you know, on Lothal, two people are, like, just something.
That's why, like, and that's their fine line too with Kanan and Ezra is, I don't like the idea, and this is going ahead, but I don't like the idea that they're like, that they're like they're non-Jedi. Like, I don't like they're going to be like, well, Kanan and Ezra are still alive. They're just not referred to as Jedi. For me, that's a cheat. Mm-hmm. I don't enjoy that. I never have. I know we'll get to it, obviously, in like a year and a half from now, but Ahsoka says, I'm no Jedi. That goes on. And I don't like that aspect of, I don't mind it with Ahsoka. I just don't like that she has to be, that. Anyway, that's where I am on it. I don't like that cheat. So
it's a big cop out.
Exactly. It's a huge cop out. It diminishes everything we know about everything in the universe, I believe. And I just think, but what this does do is it kind of leaves you to, well, where are they going with these two characters? Especially since, like you just said, Yoda knows them. He doesn't tell Luke about them. He tells Luke he's the last one. So either they stop being Jedi, which is cheap. Somebody brought up a while ago, maybe Kanan dies and Ezra goes to the unknown regions to find Thrawn, because maybe Thrawn actually escapes to the unknown region. But we'll get into that maybe coming up in a few episodes. Mm-hmm. But that's my one issue when you bring in Yoda. But in the next episode we're going to be discussing today, that is one that I'm totally on board with.
Yes.
This one, I love it, but I'm also skeptical on. This is more, well, we're still trying to convince you to watch the show. Here's a face for
exactly.
you. That's what this cameo is a cameo. That's what this is. More. That's what R2 and C-3PO were, but they kind of did that better in that first episode. Mm-hmm. Like, that one made sense organically.
It felt more. Yeah. And not only like did they say here's a face, but like here's a voice. Like, we got Frank Oz.
Yeah, exactly.
So
they're trying to hit hard with this one. It's it's also, it works on the development on the journey of Ezra and Kanan as well, that he would fit into that. It's just all the other stuff around it doesn't jive so well.
Yeah. And a question that kept nagging at me when I watched this, and maybe it's the answer is just clearly a simple, because there's a gap between light and dark side of the Force. So maybe that's just the simple explanation. But as soon as they enter the temple and Kanan and Ezra start using the Force and working their way through this temple, immediately Yoda finds them. Yoda's on Dagobah and he meditates and he finds them and he communicates with them. It's very quick. So I can't help but think, if Yoda all the way on Dagobah can sense what they're doing, why can't Vader and Palpatine?
It could be a dark light thing. I think that's what you just said there. I think that sums it up. Also, maybe it's more time than you think, or maybe it's even, Yoda. Dagobah and is strong in the Force and has a dark side valley thing. So maybe there's somewhere in Dagobah where he can go meditate, and then these Jedi temples, maybe that's he can pinpoint, kind of like Professor X's
Cerebral. That's really cool.
Yeah, something like that, where you can go in there and be like, oh, what? Hello.
Yeah.
Jeez. Hey, Obi-Wan.
See?
Luke isn't that one.
I wish that revelation, had been the Yoda side stories in the Star Wars comics instead of that thing we got with the giant rock guy.
Look, I think you and Brock need to have a conversation.
Yeah, but so that's pretty much like 95% of this episode is they're in the temple. Yoda's walking them through it, and then it brought to mind something that's coming up in episode 8, where because the vision, Ezra has a very effed up vision in this cave. He sees Kanan get murdered by the Inquisitor. He sees all his friends talking about him behind his back. And it reminded me of Luke's vision in the cave with his own face. And it made me think, because of the way Ezra works his way through this vision, where he's sort of speaking to people and interacting with people, and it feels so real to him. It made me think that when we get this flashback scene in The Force Awakens, in the Last Jedi, when we see whatever it is we're going to see with the Knights of Ren and Luke's Academy and the burning and the fire and everything, I have a feeling it's going to be presented in the same way, where we're seeing it through Rey, obviously, but it's not just a thing that Rey is watching. It's a thing that she's walking through, almost like a virtual reality thing. Like she is.
Well, that's very much what it is in The Force Awakens.
Yeah.
She's kind of, it cuts, but she's in each of those scenarios that she's seeing. She's there.
She's there, yeah. It's just a lot more scattered. I think that like what we're gonna get in this is a lot more of, and there's a movie that did it, and I'm trying to remember what it is to bring up an example. It was the Harry Potter movies when he's like looking into the pensive and he sees memories and he can walk through them, but he's just kind of like a ghost. I feel like we're gonna get something very similar. Like Rey is going to be like staring at this fiery temple and being like, oh my god, this is what happened, and Luke will appear next to her and be like, go inside, look what's happening inside. And like it's not like a thing where like the vision will shift to being inside, like she's gonna have to walk in and see it, you know what I mean? Like it's interactive to an extent,
almost like the Dagobah where he fights Vader.
Exactly.
Yeah. Which leads me to what I've been talking about for a little while. Is The Last Jedi just Empire Strikes Back in reverse?
Ooh,
does it start with I Am Your Father and end with Hoth, aka Crate?
You know what? The more you say it, the more I feel like it's true.
What's the best way to not mirror something? Reverse it. Split it backwards. But all of Luke's lines, he actually just says, Satan. Like when you put a record on. That's what. Yeah, Ryan Johnson, we're on to you.
That's why he's like, I can't believe Disney let me get away with this.
Yeah, and that's why all the posters are red.
Ooh.
Yeah, we're on to you. We are on to you.
So the episode ends with Ezra, finding himself, as Jedi tend to do, and he gets rewarded with a kyber crystal after some talking with Yoda, and some good, run-of-the-mill Jedi stuff where he's, Yoda's telling him like, why really wish you become a Jedi? And first he's like, to get revenge on the Empire, and then he starts giving the right answers, like, because I want to be a better person and I want to bring peace to people. And then he gets his blue kyber, and the episode ends with Ezra making his very unique gun saber. And we don't see him fire it as a gun. That's not revealed yet. But we just see him kind of come downstairs on the ship, and he's got it, and he's like, here, check it out. And Kanan turns it on, and he's like, well, this is different, but that's what I expected from you at this point. So that was cool.
Yeah, it was cool. And it was the first time visually that we saw something like that.
Yeah.
Aside from the deleted scene of Luke putting the crystal into his in Return of the Jedi. That was the first time we've seen the kyber crystal be used for what it's used for visually.
Well, I think there was some Clone Wars episodes that did that.
New era.
New era, yes. New era.
Yeah, Clone Wars. But new
He's
era.
totally seen Clone Wars, guys.
Yes, I have. No, but like new era, the way that they're going to be using them going forward.
Yeah.
Because kyber crystals are an enigma, because I don't think even like Lucasfilm, the story group, has a handle on them right now, because it made sense that, the Sith had synthetic, and you should have brought your lightsaber, and Jedi have crystals, but now they're kind of like, it's almost getting too convoluted with what they're doing with kyber crystals. Like it doesn't need to be that. Look, blue and green for the good guys, red for the bad guys. We don't need to know
Purple
anything.
for Sam Jackson.
Yeah, exactly. Well, whatever. But you don't need to go any further into it. like the lore is cool, but the more you go into it, the more convoluted it gets, the more confusing it gets, and the more you start going, well, nothing is making sense.
Yeah.
Which is what we were talking about with Yoda earlier. Is like the more you bring things to the forefront, the more we're gonna think about it and break it down, and the less sense it starts to make.
And like I was perfectly cool with there just being red crystals, and that's what the Sith use. But let me ask you this: in order to reinforce this whole bleeding thing, do you think we will see bleeding visually in Rebel Season 4? Because we've never seen it visually, as far as I know.
Oh, how awesome would it be if Ezra takes down Kanan, takes out his crystal, touches it, and it starts bleeding, goes, what the? And then Vader strikes him down.
Right? That would be, you know what, that would make bleeding a little bit more okay.
But can you do that on Disney XD?
They do some, wait till we get to episode 13 of Rebels, and they do some, Disney XD stretches what they can do.
Yeah, they stretch it, but they don't. I mean, the season 3 premiere, which we'll talk about in like 4 weeks from now, that is like.
I don't even remember most of it, but.
I do. It's awesome, and Ezra goes to some dark places, but we won't talk about that. We're talking about the next. Let's move on to the next episode.
Yeah, we're going to move on to episode 11, Idiot's Array. And now this episode,
I watched it with a Colt 45.
You better have. It's got another famous cameo, but this one, I think you and I both agree, it fits. It fits much better, and we can get on board with it. Everybody's favorite, sexy, cockeyed smuggler, Lando Calrissian, is back for more fun and games.
I remember when I first heard he was going to be on Rebels. I believe it was on the same thing I watched. They used to do all these character profiles, and they were on IMDb and on YouTube, and they were character profiles of Sabine, and they would tell you who the characters are. Like, and we're going to bring some familiar faces back, and they kept showing Lando. And I kept going to Lando, and I was like, this is so cheap. Mm-hmm. That was I'm like, this is so cheap. You want to bring someone in, you can't get any of the big hitters in, so you're going to go with Lando, because Billy D. Williams would probably do it easier than, Harrison Ford or whatever.
Yeah.
And then I watched the episode, and I was like, oh, here's a Lando episode. Loved it.
I know. It was so
Loved
good.
it. And it made so much. He could almost be a part of this crew.
Yeah. I love how much of a shit disturber Lando ended up being. Like how he played the crew off each other. He really just, everything he did was for his own self-interest. But he was so damn charming the whole time. And it's just funny seeing him kind of tear the crew apart in his own Lando way. He doesn't have Lobot with him yet, which is interesting. So that kind of gives us a time frame of how long he's known Lobot. Like, we know from the comic that he and Lobot are best friends, and they've been best friends for a while. But Lobot's not around.
Well, I might not just be in these situations.
But it's the only time we really see him on his own, because we get him mostly with Lobot, and then in Jedi he's like paired up with Nine Numb and everything. But finally getting to see him on the show was great, and Billy D. Williams is there, so that's fantastic. So what happens is he is gambling with Zeb, and they're playing Sabacc, which we finally get to see in visual form. And by the way, the Sabacc cards are beautiful. They were so like colorful and crisp looking.
I wonder, do you think that'll be in the Han Solo film?
I hope so, and I'm hoping now that, because we still don't know the rules to Sabacc. I don't think the rules have ever been printed. The title of the episode, Idiot's Array, is a type of hand. That's the hand that Lando wins with. So we know there's a hand called Idiot's Array, and it's apparently
I think their website you can go on and you can read the rules of.
Oh, I hope so.
Of it, but whether or not they're legit, that's for you to decide at home.
But what I want now with the Han Solo movie coming out is I want to be able to buy a deck of Sabacc cards that come with rules and everything.
I think 100% you're gonna get your wish there. I
so.
can't see you not getting your wish on that one.
I know, unless they just leave it out. Unless he's just always racing and never gambling, like with cards.
Yeah, but that's how Solo gets the Falcon.
Yeah.
So I think, and then they'll make a toy, 100%.
Do you think there'll be a scene in the movie where he's playing like Sabacc hardcore and he's playing against Mads Mikkelsen's character from Rogue One, and then Mads Mikkelsen starts weeping blood?
What?
It's a Casino Royale reference. Everybody loves
Casino
Royale.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, my God. Yeah. Actually, no, now you said that. This is another side Akbar. We've been getting too many side Akbars on this one. Han Solo could, the characters from Rogue One could appear in Han Solo, but they'd have to be younger.
Mm-hmm.
So Galen Erso makes sense because we see younger Galen Erso in Rogue One.
Yeah.
That's easy. Krennic, because there's still a thing where Han could still start off as an Imperial like he did in the old EU. You know, just because that's how you grew up, and then he escapes it somehow. And if they go that route, then you could have, I don't think they're going to, but Krennic could show up. That's how you can get Vader in there if you want. I mean, but then if you have Vader in there, Vader becomes just like, you know, nothing. Like, he's not going to have a cool scene like Rogue One, so why tease that in? Anyway, that's a side Akbar. Let's get back to Rebels.
So Lando, he's like, oh, he wins the game and he wins Chopper because Zeb bets Chopper. And everybody's freaking out. They're like, oh my God, how could you bet our droid? So Lando basically tells the crew, okay, listen. If you want the droid back, let's make a deal. Come with me. Take me to this this deal I have with this crime lord named Asmorgan. Help me out with this, and then I'll give you the droid back. And they're like, all right, and, you know, we have no choice. So he takes them to this ship where he's meeting with Asmorgan, who, by the way, I feel like we've seen his species before in Clone Wars. He's like this big, fat, like dribbly kind of guy with like skinny arms.
Yeah, he's familiar looking.
Yeah. He's like just a scumbag, just like a horrible person. And Lando says, you know, he goes, I'm here for my deal. And Asmorgan gives him a puffer pig. And in return, Lando gives him Hera as a slave girl. He's like, hey, here's Hera. And of course, everybody's again freaking out. They're like, oh my God, dude, what did you just do? And they leave. And then Hera has to break free of this crime lord. And what ends up happening is we get what I think is the funniest line, definitely all season, probably in the whole Rebels series, is when she knocks Asmorgan out with this tray of fruit. And then she walks away, and there's like one of his security guards, and she clobbers him too. And then she just goes, that was a really useful tray.
You're in love with Hera.
I love Hera so much. She's so cool. And like
crush it on the green, ladies.
Oh man, if I lived in the Star Wars universe, Twi'leks I'd be all over.
Wow, this is getting deep.
Mm-hmm. The head tentacles. What can I say? So she like in no time flash, she breaks away. She gets back to the ship, but now we got this problem. We have this puffer pig on the ship, and he's getting excited because Ezra and Zeb scare it. So we have this puffer pig that's just blocking the whole corridor of the ship, and nobody can get through. And Asmorgan's coming back and like shooting at them and stuff like that. So there's all this chaos and calamity, and it's a typical Lando kind of adventure. It feels like it could have been the plot of the Han Solo movie or of a standalone Lando movie. Like it works so well. The character and the plot serve each other. It's not like a needless cameo.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what was great about it. Whereas the Yoda one, I guess it kind of got Ezra to the Kyber crystal that eventually he needs to do it. But this one it felt so organic. Like, it felt natural. Like, yeah, Lando's the guy that would be in this situation. Like you said, like, this is exactly what this story should be right here.
Yeah. And he's even got ties to Vizago, who's like the like arms dealer that they keep dealing with. So when they have their climactic fight, Lando's like, oh, let's land here. I know Vizago. This is his camp. Like, everything just kind of ties together so perfectly. And just seeing Lando interact with the crew is hilarious in its own right, because he's the only one who is super. He's flirting with Chopper, for crying out loud. Like, he leans down and he's like, Chopper, my little friend, would you like to be a hero and help us? Like, he's so. And Chopper ends up playing him for a fool, which is great, because like what I love about Chopper is they've made him the anti-R2 without making him evil. Yeah. I mean, he is a prick. He's an absolute prick, but he's not a bad guy. And we get a sense in this episode, like, he is just as much like a king of BS as everybody else. Like, he cons Lando. That's how cool this little droid is he can con the con man. And Lando flirting with Sabine too is very funny, because he's looking at her graffiti and he's just like, yeah, wow, this brings to mind this other artist. And you can see Ezra just like sitting in the background like, I freaking hate this guy. Yeah. it's so well done. Like, every possible good interaction he could have had with the crew of the Ghost, he has. So kudos to you, Rebels. Idiots Array was wicked. And then that leads us into the third and final episode of this episode, which is episode 12 called Vision of Hope. And I'm going to be honest, Vision of Hope is my least favorite Rebels episode.
Ever?
I think ever. Maybe not ever, but definitely in season 1.
I don't have a least favorite one. I like them all, Andrew.
Well, that makes sense because you're Dave Filoni.
Tell us all what happened in this episode, please.
Vision of
Let us know why you hate it so much.
Vision of Hope, it starts off, Ezra's doing his Jedi training like always, and then all of a sudden he drops to the ground and he has a very scattered vision of the future that involves Senator Gall Travis, who is the senator that they mentioned back in a few episodes ago. Episode 6, I think. Oh, no, sorry, episode 5. He's the senator who is secretly on the rebellious side, and he's broadcasting these underground messages to the Alliance and being like, hey, everybody stay cool. We're going to fight the Empire together. So Ezra has these visions about the senator and about the senator particularly coming to Lothal and meeting them. And that ends up all happening. They listen to his radio broadcast, and sure enough, he's coming. He makes a note of saying in his little coded way, I'm coming to Lothal. If anybody friendly to my cause is there, meet me here. He's more clandestine about it than I am. But the reason I don't like this episode, and we'll get into there's like a twist at the end. We'll get into that later. But the reason I don't like this episode is because I've never been a fan of that whole concept of somebody having a really scattered vision of the future and then you watch it unfold like as the story progresses. And I feel like that happens so much in TV and in movies too, but especially in television. Like I wrote down here, like it's such a big cliche. I have here, I was like, okay, I was thinking of all the instances where I've seen that happen. I'm like, okay, X-Files did it. Fringe did it. Lost did it. Every single superhero show has done it at least once. Like any show you can think of has an episode where somebody's like, oh, I just had these 5 random images of the future, and then we see them happen. That was why when they announced, I think it was last fall when they announced they were making a Minority Report TV series, I was like, oh my God, you do realize we've had like 90 of those already just collected from other TV shows, right? We don't need that. We don't need another, I saw a guy holding a knife. He's going to murder somebody. Like we don't need that. And I don't know, that story element always got under my skin just because of how cliche it is. I've always hated it. So maybe it's just personal bias, but that's why when I saw this episode and we have that whole thing where it's like, oh, this vision and that vision, what's it all mean? It's going to come together. I don't care.
I'm not sure if I'd say this is my least favorite Rebels episode because, to be completely honest with you, I don't know. I haven't really thought about what my least favorite one is, so I haven't put enough effort into that. Mm-hmm. I can see where you're coming from, and I totally agree. It's always boring to me because you know what the outcome's going to be. They're going to end up figuring it out and get there on time.
Yeah, and it's always the same kind of deal where I remember in X-Files especially this happened where there was a whole episode about a murder that was going to happen, and Mulder and Scully found out because some guy was psychic and he knew details, but it was always like, oh, I only know small details. I can only tell you, oh, I see a number 58. Go find house number 58. Like, it's always like the psychic person doesn't know enough. Otherwise, the story would be over in 2 seconds, So it's like,
just
oh
enough.
God,
true story. Never seen the X-Files.
No, really.
Another true story. Never seen Lost. Another true story. Never seen Fringe. So that hasn't happened all those many times to me.
Wait a minute. Aaron is a huge Lost fan. You've never watched it?
No.
Really? You do know it's my favorite show of all time, right?
I do. I remember we shot a short film one day, and you're like, I gotta get home to watch the finale of Lost. I was like, why are you talking like that?
Actually haven't.
That's a true story. Actually, it is. No, I've never seen any of those, and I know enough to know that I don't care about that storyline either. However, can we talk about the twist now?
Yes, we can.
I do. I'll let you talk, but I do like where it goes in terms of the overall impact of this story to the rebellion as a whole.
Yes.
This is what I like about this episode and why I don't know if I could call it my least favorite one because of this small little detail where, well, now you can go on.
Well, what happens is, they want to meet up with this senator who is having this whole underground rebellion over the radio. And when they meet up with him, he's acting kind of weird. And Hera sees it first. And as they are on the run, they're going through the sewers. The stormtroopers and Callus are all after them. And Ezra hands him a blaster, and she says, "Here, Senator, cover us. Me and Ezra have to do this thing." And as soon as she hands him the blaster, he points it at them, and he's like, "Psych!" So he's not really. He's been working for the Empire the whole time.
Which I kind of saw that one coming. Did you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You see it coming, but it's still the impact of you're not safe.
Exactly, because at the end of the day, whether or not you saw the twist coming, it drives home the fact that's very important, especially throughout season 1 of this show, that they are very alone.
Mm-hmm.
There are other rebel cells, but the odds are stacked so high against them. They are such a minority. Being a rebel is such a minority.
Report.
See what I did there? Of course you did, because you can see the future. That it just shows us just how crazy the odds are, and how much they have to fight to dig themselves out of this hole the Empire has put them in.
Yeah. I wonder if they'll succeed.
I wonder if the rebellion will be successful. I don't know. I've never seen a Star Wars, so
I've never seen Lost, Fringe, X-Files, Star Wars, Star Trek, Lord of the Rings.
Wizard of Oz.
I only watch Wizard of Oz.
That's it.
Oh no, sorry. I only watch
Return to Oz.
No, the other one. Land
The
of
Wiz?
Oz. The Oz Strikes Back. The Sam Raimi, James Franco one.
Oh, Jesus. Oz the Great and Powerful.
Yeah, that Oz is the only one I watch.
That's it. No more.
Only that Oz. No, in fairness, I do watch Star Trek, Lord of the Rings, Star Wars, but never the other ones. Never those. Anything on TV, I don't watch. So if there was a Star Wars TV show, I'd be put in a very, very awkward position.
You know what? I'm so tempted right now to start another show where it's just me making you watch Lost and then we recap it like we're doing right now.
I kind of want to do that with. Anyway, we'll talk about that later.
We'll talk about that later. But so that's Visions of Hope. Like it's a very basic. Like not a whole lot happens this episode. It all just revolves around meeting the senator and then finding out, psych, he's not who he says he is. We do get another really great funny line in this when the crew has to jump down into the sewers to kind of get to where they have to go, and everybody's complaining because the sewers stink, and Sabine's like, ugh, like this is horrible. Like it smells as bad as you, Ezra. And Ezra looks over at his shoulder. He's like, wait, you know what I smell like?
Actually, there was an episode. Was it in last week's show? Where they jump out of a ship, and Sabine gives Ezra a look, and then Ezra looks at Sabine, and it's like they're hinting at something here that they forget about, I think, going forward. But they did. I can't remember what episode it was because we watched so many at the same time. Was it anyway, one of them. And Sabine gives Ezra like this look, like, be careful, I'm worried about you. And Ezra's like, yeah, you are.
Yeah.
And they jump out. So that was a funny line.
But actually, I don't think they've forgotten about it. But you're right. In season 1, like ever since he first meets her in the pilot, Ezra has been like flirting, putting on the flirt with Sabine, and she doesn't really reciprocate. Like she digs him. Like she thinks he's a cool guy, but they never really took that anywhere, and I kind of like that because it's like at the end of the day there's more important things going on than
look, Andrew, we all know you don't like love. Okay,
true.
We have a whole video where everyone
love.
hates you on how little you like love. You know what? I want whatever to happen. You gotta go. So yeah, I'm okay with them kind of forgetting about it as well. I wonder if are they raised parents?
Oh.
Really, really affected.
Well, even if they don't, like, if they end up having a relationship, I'm cool with that. But I really like that they haven't rushed it. I like that we're going 4 seasons in and we're not any further than we were in this episode where he's like, you know what I smell like?
I think this show, and even if it was for adults, even if the show was for adults, I still think that like the relationship factor, the aspect of relationships is now where this show should go. Hera and Kanan obviously have something there, but that's as far as you need to go because they are in a rebellion fighting against an empire. They could be dead at any second. So falling in love, everyone involved, and Ezra's still too young and new to really appreciate at this point, but later on he's not. And anyone involved should know, hey, look, we can't do anything here because we don't know if there's going to even be a tomorrow.
Yeah.
Which is really why they should do it. But
I know, it makes more sense to be like, hey,
but then if the other person survives, then all of a sudden they're in their heart's broken forever now. Yeah. And how do they help out the the cause if they're emotionally handcuffed. So
you're right. It does cloud the judgment. And in regards to Kanan and Hera, it's like we always knew kind of right from the get-go that there was something going on there. And even both the writers of the show and those two characters have sort of, they've never been shy about it. Like they've openly admitted, like you see the way they look at each other, the way they hold each other, they call them like my dear, my love. But they never, it's like they always just kind of keep it at like a 6.5. Like you never see them kiss. You never see them. I don't think they ever actually say "I love you."
what
to
would
each
their
other.
children look like?
Green and bearded.
Just a blob that's green with a beard.
just a little soul patch.
Daddy. You know what? You know what gets me? This is our fourth episode of I Rebel, and I keep forgetting to bring up Kanan's eyesight. It is so strange going back and watching him be able. I'm sorry, spoiler for those of you who haven't watched it, but it's old. Like I think there are times when Kanan does things, I'm like, what is different about Kanan?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's that. That's something that going back and watching it, I'm like, oh my god, why is that throwing me off so much? It's because he doesn't have them. I mean, he has them, but
and everybody's got their old school, like their original haircuts. Like Ezra's
so you know what, hair. The Sabine one though, I like doesn't throw me off, but Ezra the first time I was like, Ezra's hair is different.
Yeah, well, all she did was color hers, right? Like it went
like
from
a lighter
orange to green or something.
No, it's a lighter purple now. It's like a
purple?
white purple.
Oh, okay. But she's always
yeah, she's just like whatever.
Did Kanan change his hair too? I feel like
yeah, he got a beard.
Does he not have the beard in this? I can't remember. Like I feel like he at one point he's got the ponytail.
Don't look at the beard that I have holding this up.
Let's see here. Is
he's
he
got
even
a
on?
little
He's not.
soul
Is he on
patch.
that cover?
Yeah, he's still got a soul patch right there.
Oh yeah. So he's got the soul patch. I think in like season 3 though, he's just got like the side shaved off like a soccer player. Like he's just got the man bun and that's it. I feel like they did something different with his hair, but it wasn't as
well, now he has a full
drastic
beard
as Ezra. But yeah, that is hair and love talk, and that is Star Wars.
Hashtag Raylo.
Hashtag Raylo.
Yeah.
But that's I Rebel for another weekend, and
4 episodes in.
we are blazing through season 1. We have 1 episode left of season 1, and then it's on to the deuce.
That is.
So we're getting there, and of course, Dave Filoni was kind enough to grace us with his presence.
Yeah.
Dave, what other slang words are canon now?
Witchcraft and wizardry, Potterville, don't say Voldemort, X-Files, and What's a Lost.
What's a Lost?
That's one word, What's a Lost.
I'll tell you what What's a Lost is it's the next show we're doing where I'm going to make you watch it, and we're going to talk about it for like 9 hours. Okay, that's I
But
Rebel.
what happened if I didn't like it?
It would be interesting because that would make for a good show because you and I would be arguing. I'd be like, this is the greatest thing ever. I'm going to like take my shirt
You
off.
don't get it. You don't just leave Party of 5 to go on an island.
Every one of my best friends, I got them hooked on Lost, except for like the 2 who got me hooked on it. But like 90% of them didn't get the ending.
I did. Oh, wait. True story. I did watch the finale of Lost. Here's what happened. We were shooting that day, and I went home, and Rob, Darth Ward, was watching Lost. And I said, I'm going to put this crap on. So I put it on, and I'm sitting there, and I'm like, what the F? And he's like, I don't get it. And I was like, oh, well, this is happening. And I texted him, he goes, how do you know? I'm like, I don't know. Am I missing? Like, that's what it looks like to me. He goes, I think you're wrong. And then, like, the things started coming out, and he goes, you were right. That's the only episode I ever saw. And I can't remember it because I was not emotionally.
I'm glad you can't remember it because that would have sucked.
I am not emotionally invested into it whatsoever, but I was like, it's basic storytelling. From what I remember, it was like, here's the thing with a lot of shows, and this is another side Akbar, is we do this with, I think with Force Awakens. We try to look too deep on what things are, but usually things are presented to us right there on the surface. And you just look at what it is at face value, and 90% of the time, that's what you'll find.
Exactly. And so many people who didn't get the ending and who were waiting for this to happen or waiting for this revelation kept saying to me, oh, well, Lost sucks because they didn't do this X, Y, and Z. And I'm like, yeah, but Lost wasn't about doing X, Y, and Z. It was about these people. And we got closure on every single one of those people. X, Y, and Z, you're smart enough to figure it out by yourself.
Were you taught to say Z in school?
No, not at all. I always say Z, but when I say X, Y, Z together, I for some reason I can't say X, Y, Z. I don't
Canada,
know
eh?
we'll discuss it more on my Chesterfield.
Wait,
anyway, that's...
Which country says Chesterfield?
We do.
No, we don't.
Yeah, I think we...
Who has ever said Chesterfield?
Old people say it.
Do they?
I don't say it, but old people say it.
I've never heard it. I mean, I've heard it. It sounds British.
Yeah, it does. It could be.
People from the UK.
We are a colony.
Did I just throw you guys? They're like, that is not British at all.
Like,
You
unsubscribe.
keep your weird Canadian language that's half American, half British English. You keep that to yourself. We don't know how to spell here.
Everything's got U's in it. It's spell check hates
Yeah,
me.
we everything has U's, but if you it's just total side market. But if you go downtown Toronto, there's like a harbor sign, and it's a Sir John A. Macdonald, who is an old Canadian, wrote something, and there's no U's.
Yeah.
Right?
What's up with that?
Ah.
There's no continuity in the.
I'm gonna go driving kilometers now.
I'm gonna become the Pablo Hidalgo of Canada, and I'm gonna set up.
I think
a basis.
I think Wikipedia says he's half Chilean, half Canadian.
There we go.
So you can't even win that one.
Damn you, Pablo! You're so much better than me in every way. But anyway, I'm Andrew Fantasia. This has been,
I am not Dave Filoni.
This is not Dave Filoni, and this is I Rebel. We'll see you next time. We'll be covering the end of season uno.
Oh, I can't wait.
May the force be with you.
Always. That's my. All right, let's go watch Lost.
Hey scumbags, thanks for watching. Don't forget to give us a thumbs up on our video. As always, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, Rebel Scum Podcast, for all the latest videos.